Hello, everybody, and welcome to the January 2022 installment of the How to Leverage the NRMN Network webinar series. My name is Johnny Garza, and I'm the Digital Communication Strategist for the National Research Mentoring Network. I'm gonna go ahead and give some time for people to go ahead and join us. I'm gonna take a couple seconds before we get started. All right, and before we get into things, I do want to wish everyone a happy new year. And also, there's so much to celebrate this month. Happy National Mentoring Month. And also today is a very special day. It's, happy MLK Day, and it's also Happy International Mentoring Month Day. So there's a lot to celebrate. We're glad you're here with us, celebrating the power of mentorship, and also just celebrating the resources we have to offer within our network. So we really do appreciate you joining us today on this celebratory day. I do want to let everybody know that this webinar will also be recorded and will be later posted to our YouTube channel. We will leave time for a Q&A session at the end, so please put any questions you may have into the chat down below, and then we'll make sure to address those at the end. All right, so let me go ahead and give you a little bit background of the National Research Mentoring Network, NRMN. So we are a National Institutes of Health grant-funded initiative whose entire purpose is to diversify the STEM workforce. NRMN started in 2014, and we have amassed over 21,000 members since its inception. Now let's go over some announcements. So for National Mentoring Month, NRMN has been celebrating in a big way. So we do have 2 webinars coming up, one this week and actually one next week. So the first one will be on January 20th at 11 a.m. Central Time, and it is entitled How Mentors Can Help Their Trainees Have Better Time Management and Generate Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Niches. So Doctors A.J. Hinton, Haysetta Schuler, and Sandra Murray will be discussing different ways you can manage your time with your mentees. They will also share how to create DEI niches for your mentoring experience. And I'll be putting the link to register shortly in the chat. And then we also have another webinar on January 27th at 11 a.m. Central Time. And this one is entitled The Impact of Mentorship Throughout Your Professional Journey. This one is with Dr. J. Marcela Hernandez, and she will be discussing the impact and change mentorship can have on many different career paths. Dr. Hernandez will also be sharing her experiences, stories with our network. And again, a little bit later in this webinar, I'll be posting the links to the register for these webinars. And also, just as a reminder, February 21st will be our next How to Leverage the NRMN Network webinar series. And I'll be putting a link in the chat soon as well, in case if you aren't registered yet, or if you want to share it with your network or some people that you think will find an interest in our webinar series. All right, so now let's go ahead and go over our agenda for the webinar. So today will actually look a little bit different. I know most of our How to Leverage webinars, you kind of just see me and maybe one other NRMN team member. And we're usually going through the platforms or just talking about different things within NRMN. Well, today we actually have some special guests. We actually have a kind of a mini panel here of NRMN members. So today we'll be introducing them, and then we're just gonna have a small discussion on, mentorship, and then we'll also be talking about some of the resources they are utilizing that's helping them in their career path. And then again, towards the end, after the panelist discussion, we will leave time for a Q&A. So during that time, please feel free to leave any questions in the chat, and these questions can be for any of the NRMN members. It can be for myself. Any questions you have, please don't be afraid to enter them in the chat. All right, so I'm gonna stop my share screen here. All right, and so we do have 3 of our panelists here with us today. We are expecting one more, so if they pop in during the webinar, we'll give them a chance to introduce themselves. So I'm just gonna let the panelists introduce themselves, talk a little bit about their background, and also the current role that they're in right now. So we can go ahead and start with Tyra. Tyra, do you wanna go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. It's still morning here in New Orleans, so I'll say good morning. I'm Dr. Tyra Gross. I'm an assistant professor of public health sciences at a HBCU, Xavier University of Louisiana here in New Orleans. It's a crisp day for MLK Day, so excited to be here with you all. And I recently was notified that I did receive tenure and promotion, so I'm ecstatic about that. And one thing that I was very excited about is putting my mentoring portfolio together as part of my tenure package. So shameless plug, if anyone is a faculty member or new to the academy, please, please, please keep good documentation of all the wonderful things that you do with your mentees and craft your mentoring philosophy. I know a lot of research grants are asking about that. So I just wanted to put that plug before I forgot to share that. So excited to be here.
Thank you, Tyra. And Marvin, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself next?
Sure. So hi, everyone. My name is Marvin Evans, and I am a third-year PhD student at The Ohio State University. And I'm currently doing my PhD in educational psychology and learning technologies. So one of my major areas of research is learning communities and the mentor-mentee development and communication that we have in these communities. So this platform that we use here for NRMN works very well for the program that Pia will describe shortly, because we work together on that project. And that is a role that we take using the NRMN platform in our NIH funded project. So, okay, well, there was a question from Tiffany. So yes, so we look forward to sharing all the uses that we use, all the ways that we use the platform throughout this webinar.
Sorry, I will give camera access. Sorry, I did not realize it wasn't on. But Pia, go ahead and start introducing yourself while I do that. Sorry.
Okay, first of all, happy MLK Day, and Tyra, congratulations to your wonderful mentoring package and promotion. So I'm Pia van Benthem. I am a program manager for our NIH-funded Tox MSDT program. It's a toxicology, mentoring, and skills development training program, where we match mentees with mentors out of the biomedical industry, academia, and nonprofits, and have the mentors mentor the mentees to help them get into graduate school at the end of a one-year program. And we are utilizing the NRMN platform as our social communication platform and all its resources.
All right, sorry here, give me just one moment. All right, I got one more to do. All right, so everybody should be able to have access to the camera. I'm so sorry, guys, I thought you already had access. All right, well, thank you for the wonderful introductions. And again, thank you so much for being here. Again, like I said before, we have a lot to celebrate today. We have to celebrate International Mentoring Day and also MLK Day. So again, thank you to our panelists and thank you to our attendees for celebrating with us today. We really do appreciate it. So my first question, and also the questions that I asked for the panelists, I want the attendees to also answer in the chat as well. We want you to feel included. I'm curious to see everybody's answers. So please feel free to answer these questions in the chat as well. So my first question for the panelists, and you don't have to answer any specific order, but I'm curious, how did y'all get introduced to NRMN? I know some people get introduced maybe by a colleague, another researcher, things of that sort. So I'm curious, how did you find out about the National Research Mentoring Network?
Okay, so for me, this was very interesting. It was actually written in our grant proposal. So we had faculty utilizing the platform, I think in 2016 already or 17. And so we actually found out about it because it was actually proposed in our grant.
Oh,
And
awesome.
then what happened was, I think the communication that happened with the mentor and the mentees, Pia, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they were using like Carmen or Canvas or some blogging platform that exists, but it was just based from the different universities that interact with our project. So what happened now was that the NRMN is more, it's wider when it comes to the entire US and even around the world, because we see posts coming in from persons all around the world who has any questions related to different projects and just getting that necessary help that they would want. So we did some brainstorming and we did some trial and error trying to move from our local platforms to the NRMN, and that's how we have been using it so far.
Awesome.
And for me, several people were already involved with NRMN at Xavier and has shared the resource widely. We have NIH funded build program at Xavier. And so with the mentoring activities we have on campus, I actually am the new director for the mentoring program called PMAX. It's so big on mentoring across campus. We have a lot of students that are interested in going into graduate level studies of whatever, mainly biomedical fields. And so NRMN was one of the resources that was shared with me.
Awesome. That is great to hear. And I see we have another panelist to join us. Gulnaz, are you there?
Yes, good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm a little bit cold. I think you can hear me.
Yeah, no, we can hear you just fine.
Yeah, so thank you so much. I'm sorry, I couldn't join the couple minutes late. What was the question? Just introduce ourselves?
Yeah, well, one, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background and your current role, and then also tell us how you got introduced to NRMN.
Okay, so here is still morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Gulnaz Javan, and I'm a forensic scientist, Alabama State University. I worked cadavers, postmortem microbiome, and gene expression. And then this is the one of the from the PI is the for this grant, Dr. Mishra. For this reason, I'm a mentor in Alabama State University. So far, I graduated 40 undergraduate students and 40 master students. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Again, thank you for joining us. All right, so I did want to ask just one kind of good, I guess, conversation starter. So in honor of MLK, National Mentoring Month, what does mentorship mean to y'all? And it can be, anything. What does it mean for you? And also attendees, please feel free to answer in the chat as well.
I'll jump in. I've been marinating on this all morning, so I want to make sure I get my poignant words across. I'm thinking of Dr. King, and I was reading some of his speeches before the webinar went live, and thinking about, I have a dream speech, and I've been on the mountaintop, and thinking about vision and legacy, and also hope. And so I think that mentors inspire hope in their mentees, whether that's with live interaction. We have a lot of digital communication with COVID, right? And so inspiring hope, really helping mentees to have clarity in their vision so that they can leave a legacy. And for many of us in mentoring capacities, they're sometimes formal, informal, but it's not like we're doing it because of money. We're doing it because we really are passionate about working with other people and helping them aspire to greatness. So really, I just think about vision, legacy, and inspiring hope. I've had some situations where I saw what mentorship should not be, which I think inspired me to really be the mentor that I am today. I'm more of a touchy-feely kind of mentor. And so I always feel like when my students graduate, they leave the nest and I say, you can always come back home. So for me, mentorship is just really almost welcoming mentees in a little bit closer than your traditional maybe faculty or a staff relationship with the student. And so I definitely don't take it lightly. So for me, it's more of like an intimate relationship where you're really pouring into this other person, and that it's a two-way street, right? They pour into you as you pour into them, and it takes a little bit of vulnerability to do that well. And so I think in past mentorship situations, I had mentors that were very like cold and like disconnected. And I felt like, well, this is not what I signed up for. How can I get out of my postdoc? It's like, so the person I thought was going to be my mentor ended up not, we didn't really hit it off as well as the other people. So really, you know, mentoring it's about connections. It's not just necessarily one person. So that's what I wanted to share. So I'll hush now.
No, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Anybody else?
Yeah, so I can go next. So my research is about teacher education, STEM teacher education. So I'm always looking on it from a perspective of how do we mold the new generation of teachers, because they are the ones that go out and they interact with the millions of students all around the world. Sometimes we do not know exactly which area they're going to be placed when they leave the colleges and are no longer under our supervision. So it's always very important to think of this broad perspective when we have these many teachers and the many students that they're going to interact with. How do we try to get them up to a standard that we know that they're not only competent and effective, but when they get into the work world, they have this interaction and this genuine care for their students so that the students can learn exactly what it is that we want to learn. So two of the issues that we are currently trying to address when we think of mentorship is access, having persons getting the access that they need. And one of the reasons why the NRMN works well for us is because it gives you access to, unlike what Tara just said, you know, you have that one person that is your mentor, but possibly you don't want them to be your mentor, but just having that platform and just having that space where you have 21,000 persons that you can say, what can you help? How can you help support me? So it's just giving persons that access. So that's one way that I think of when I think of mentorship, having access to many persons. And the second thing is, how do we sustain these relationships? Because after you have used that person, or after that person has moved on to a different university or a different school or a different institution, how do we maintain that relationship and also share what we have learned with others? So it's really about trying to find the best ways to, we know that the content and the knowledge and the ability to learn is out there from others, but how do we access it and how do we sustain these relationships? And that's what I think of when I think of mentorship.
Really great. Thank you, Marvin. Did anybody else have anything?
For me, mentorship means making yourself available. Like Tyra said, you have to be vulnerable, you have to put yourself out there, and you really, really, really have to also take on a leadership role. You have to direct your mentee, but you need to be open for teamwork to receive input from your mentees, switch your directions, adjust your expectations. I think mentoring is a great responsibility, and it's important that you also, I find, help your mentee maybe connect with other mentors. Like Marvin said, NRMN is a great platform for that, or even in your closer network, just help your mentee to succeed in the direction they want to pursue.
That's great. Thank you, Pia. Gulnaz, did you have anything to add?
Yes, and to me, it's mentorship, especially for the guidance. Guidance means you're not accessible anytime, and I really love to my students. I'm so enthusiastic, and always I can accessible 7/24 hours. So I just help them and improve them, especially when they graduated, they can get, you know, I'm a forensic scientist. My general students, either crime scene investigator or FBI agent, when they get the job, I'm telling you, my mission is completed. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you all so much for answering that. And again, attendees, feel free to add in the chat on any of these questions that our panelists are answering. All right, so my next question for you all is, what NRMN resources are you using or have you used for your academics or your career?
Okay, so Pia, I can start there and then you can pick up on where I leave off. So our project is the toxicology Tox MSDT. So we have mentors and mentees from all over the US that are interested in toxicology, the different aspects and fields of toxicology. And that's how we get them introduced, especially those persons from underrepresented backgrounds. So we introduce them to toxicology. It's a free one-year program for them, and they have the mentorship and the mentorship from all of these different well-known professors from all around the US. So for P&I, we are more of the managers or the program guides when it comes to monitoring the students that are actually in the different communities that we have. So how it works is that we have two running communities. So we have one for mentors and mentees, where they ask each other questions just within our community, as well as they're free to ask external to the community. And we have a second one for the mentors themselves, and they share resources between themselves, or because we have a one-to-one mentor-mentee relationship, but we don't want that to be the only interaction that they get. So we want the mentors to also communicate with each other so that whatever resources they have shared with their mentee can be shared with the entire community. So that is how Pia and I use the platform. So we are supervising all of the mentors and the mentees. I think it's 15 total, plus the persons that are conducting the investigation. So probably over 60 in both of our communities. And we are monitoring their use. We're monitoring the questions that they answer. We are questions that they're asking, and we answer them as we see fit and suggest them to the right resources. And Pia will now talk about the webinars and the resources that we spoke about before this meeting and how we use those from NRMN as well.
So I have to say our program started in September, so we are fairly new. And like Marvin said, we used it a lot so far as a private community in our own network. Students really like the unconscious bias course you guys are providing. That is a great one. I have to say we have not utilized the platform to its full extent. Like, for example, utilizing outside mentors outside of our networks, having our mentees make more connections, using it more like the LinkedIn platform. And also I have to say, but this might be me not having dug around too much, that it would be great to have more courses on there, because it's nice to refer to the students within a network to different available resources. So the courses seem to be something that's a little bit missing to us, but I'm happy to hear how to manage this all better.
Right. And what I'll say is that, yes, so Pia and I have been, so for this year, it's really just exploring the platform, seeing all that is available for us, given that it's really the first year of our using the platform. So we are really exploring the resources, exploring the webinars, and then once we get a better hang of it, then the expectation is that within the second year now, we'll have like a full list of things to do and activities to consider, resources to access for all the mentors and mentees. But we did do that research for the courses, and the unconscious bias was one that really stood out to us.
That's great. No, and Pia, I'm glad you said, well, I'm glad that y'all are utilizing the unconscious bias course. We actually, since the unconscious bias course was such a big hit, we have over, I think, 1,700 registrants for it. We actually do, I think coming up this month, we do have a mentee course. It's all about laboratory readiness. And it'll show you about, laboratory etiquette, and some just different, best practices and tips that they can utilize while they're in the lab. So that's an exciting course to look forward to so far. But yes, we do hope that everybody does utilize our platform to the fullest. Like you said, there's so many resources on there. We got a CV resume builder. We have virtual groups that you can just go in and just automatically start networking with people. cool. So yeah, there's many different resources that we have in there, but I'm glad that the courses are getting the spotlight that they need. Does anybody else have anything else to add to that?
And when I had to update my profile, truth moment. So when I went on the platform and I was just kind of searching, who's listing themselves as a mentee and who's, looking for mentorship. And there was an individual that wasn't necessarily a fit for me, but I thought that they would be a fit for my colleagues. And I'm like, do you know my friend, Dr. So-and-so? Because I love connecting people. So even if it's like, I may not feel like I have, the skill set to offer you, if I think of someone else, even if I don't know them that well, I'll try to make connections. And it turns out they already knew each other. And they're like, that reminds me, I need to cultivate that relationship. I'm like, you should, they're awesome. You're awesome. I was recently, I think I got an email this morning of some of the top questions that people asked. And I found some of the questions really, really interesting. And one in particular, this is Ronald Minty from Columbia, was asking about best practices when the senior scholars are majority scholars and the proteges or the mentees are underrepresented scholars. And I'm like, this is a really good question and nobody's answered it yet. And so I feel like, sometimes people are asking questions and it's defeating when you don't see an answer. But I think that when you don't see the answer to your question maybe on there, it might be the niche that you're created to fill. And so I was thinking about replying like, hey, maybe this is an area for you to really document whatever it is that you're planning to do to add to the literature, because we know, publishing is such a tiring process. It can be, a discouraging process. And so there's a lot of best practices that haven't been published. Either because people were burnt out or people changed institutions or for whatever reasons. But it just reminded me of, not taking for granted the process of what we do and sharing that information to others that may not be as nifty at what it is that we do. So shout out to Ronald Minty at Columbia. I don't know him, but I did see his question. I just wanted to bring that up while we were here together.
Thank you for sharing that, Tyra. Gulnaz, did you have anything to add?
Yes. So in general, my mentoring plan, I can outline the 8 different steps. So first step is I can do orientation, and first meeting I can deeply discuss the students, and I requested them each student's individual development plan. And second step, I can talk to career guidance. Because career guidance, some of them, they would like to go to academically, or they will go to just the commercial, they would like to just a professional work to just the company. So according to, I can divide it to students according to their career guidance. And then, of course, introduction giving about the active, my current grant proposal. And then definitely students request at least 1 publication, 1 presentation. So this is my mentoring plan. And also, of course, in this lab, my lab is, I collected national and international cadavers. On United States, there is the second lab. We can access the national and the international. This is advantage, especially if the students, they would like to go to medical school, is very advantage for this, like the skill in the my lab. And then the last couple, steps, of course, is I can allow the instruction of professional practice. They can go to observe the morgue autopsy actively, and then also I would like to encourage them like this NRMN, like a mentee, like this program. They need to enroll them, and especially your meetings are so beneficial. They can watch them always. This is my assignment. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. All right. My next question is, so does anybody have a mentorship story or experience they'd like to share that they think it would be beneficial for others to hear?
I'll go. A few that come to mind is when I mentioned my postdoc a little bit earlier, and even though I didn't feel like I was getting the mentorship that I wanted, I had the opportunity to mentor some summer undergraduate research students from Rice University in Houston. And that was probably the best thing that happened for me. And so it's like out of that pain or that gap that I felt like I was having, I was able to mentor these young women, and they were so like just hungry to learn. And so it just made me want to show up more fully for them. And just a special moment, shout out to Abby. She had her first baby. And so she messaged me because I was pregnant with my first child when I was mentoring these young women. And so she had her first baby a few months ago. And so it was like still fresh childbirth experience. And she sent me a picture. And I'm like, out of all of the people you could be sharing this moment with, you reached out to me. And so I just thought that was so telling that we, had such an intimate connection that summer, and, cultivated that relationship, that she wanted to let me in, not just on like the professional side of her life, but this new experience as a new young mother and how to navigate that. And so that meant the world to me. And, we were not the same race. And so I think I've learned how to be a great mentor, regardless of if the person is the same gender as me or of the same racial ethnic background as me. And so I enjoy those learning opportunities to be slightly challenged and to just really learn. And so I think I approach it with kind of like an open-mindedness. I'm here to learn from you. Let's enjoy this relationship with one another. So that's something I wanted to share.
Yeah, and I found it interesting that sometimes mentorship can happen when you don't expect it. So we had we still have a program participant who at one point I got an email that she's not interested if she wants to participate in our program anymore because her mentor and her have problems in their relationship. So I called the student and I talked to her on the phone and I said, just tell me what's happening. And the only thing I did was pretty much listening to her and then offering my help to find her a new mentor. And I asked her for criteria she would like to see in a mentor. And her first one was she would like to work with a woman of color. And I was providing her then with a list of options where actually I put one person, it was a male, not of color, on the list. And she emailed me a while back and said, I chose that person, Pia. And I said, I'm just curious why. And she said, well, you actually were somebody who listened to me. You didn't talk down. You didn't even suggest anything. You just listened. And I was thinking I should expand my horizon, and why not give everybody an equal shot? That's just kind of, that made me very happy.
No, that's really great to hear. No, those are really great stories. Thank you for sharing. Does anybody have anything else to share?
Yes, so I would say that whenever you're trying to mentor anybody, especially those persons in underrepresented populations, I have found that some of the questions that they ask, even based on what Pia just said, it sounds like the simplest questions. It seems like something that you would expect persons to know. However, we can have that perception given the positions that we are in. But thinking about other persons that do not have access to resources or do not have access to just getting the assistance or the guidance that they need, we can't take these simple things for granted. So really listening to what they have to say and just having that general view of, I'm here to assist you, as simple as it may sound, then that can always give them a different perspective. And then I remember when I was guiding a set of teachers to be, and many of the questions that they were asking me, I was not able to answer because they were speaking from different cultures or different contexts or different environments that I was not able to assist them. And then what did I do in turn? I ended up asking other persons in my network to assist both me with getting the knowledge because I want to know it for future students, as well as assisting those students that were asking the questions initially. And then this is how we ended up now with a network, because I expanded my network, asking other persons to get assistance from them. They connected me to other persons and I connected my students to other persons. So it's always just having that opportunity to think that as simple as the problem may seem, or as simple as the guidance that they ask, especially those persons without the access may seem to want, just hearing them out, giving them the benefit of the doubt, listening to what they say, giving them the connection and the opportunity to network with other persons can play a big role in what they learn and how they move forward.
That's great. Thank you for sharing. Gulnaz, did you have anything to share?
Actually, I would like to share, I started Alabama State University 2012, August. And 2013, January, one PhD students. And then came to my office and then she told me she wanted to work with me. But I don't think I was ready, to be honest with you. I was so scared because I was rookie, you know what I'm saying? So, and then she said, why? Because there are meaningful professors, why you chose me? I say, oh, Dr. Javan, you are so enthusiastic. I really want to work with you. But I'm telling you, I say, just look at around, don't work with me. Because first, you know, the person trusts herself first. It's not easy, you know, just I came assistant professor and as a postdoc. And then after, let's try. And then we work. And then 4 years, she published 10 publications. And she is the best in the, you know, ASU, I can tell, the all PhD program. And I say, I don't want to share with her name, but she's so private. She's still she's my collaborator right now. She's my right hand. I say, I'm really honored with her. And I really wanted to share with you guys. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Gulnaz. Yeah, I'm actually glad you shared that because that kind of leads me to my next question. So we do have a lot of members, and this not is only with mentees, but mentors as well, who are kind of intimidated by the idea of mentorship or kind of scared to dive into that role. So what advice would y'all give to someone that is new to mentorship and who might be, you know, a little bit scared to kind of go that journey, go that route?
So I can start, and I can also, I'll just make one quick note for mentees as well. Sometimes it just makes sense to ask. Don't be afraid to ask. The worst case scenario, as Tyra said earlier, is that you'll ask and no one will answer. And sometimes persons are not answering because they don't know themselves. So you are creating that entire area, that space where you are creating new conversations because it's not something that person's thought of before. But the first thing for the mentees themselves is just to ask. The mentors, on the other hand, you won't always be comfortable. You won't always be confident. You won't always know all the answers. And I think just having that humility when you are becoming a mentor and just knowing that I won't be perfect. And I will say to my mentees, that's a very good question. I have no idea how to answer that, but give me some time to ask some other persons and see other ways that I can figure out how to assist you. So it's just having that humility to know and let them know in the beginning, give them that disclaimer. I am not perfect and I don't know everything. However, I'm always here to help you. And if I don't know how to help you, I'll give you those necessary resources that can assist you. And it's a learning process, so we will learn from each other as we go along. So that's just the first thing for mentors, is just to be humble, to give that disclaimer and let them know that you're there for them and you'll try as best as possible to assist them in whatever ways you can.
Yeah, and I'm just adding to Marvin's, which is pretty much just ask as a mentor, find a support group, find other mentors. And I think that's where NRMN comes in really handy, because there is a mentor network. So you can find people who also just started out, and that might be the first step, finding others who are in the same boat as you are, but also finding mentors who have been doing this for a while, so you can learn from them.
The first thing that came to mind when you asked that question was closed mouths don't get fed, which might seem a little harsh, but it's true. It does take a little bit of, courage to just reach out and say, and I also, when I talk to my mentee about this, is imagine someone getting an email saying, I love your work. I've read this article. I found it very interesting. Would you just be open to, a quick Zoom chat or something? Like, do you know how good that would feel? Like, it feels amazing to know that someone has read your work, someone has done enough digging to learn more about your background. And I'm like, people may not have the time or the capacity to really have, heavy mentoring interactions, but you never know their capacity unless you reach out. And one of my dear friends now was a doctoral student, and she read my dissertation. And so she messaged me, and it was almost like, oh my gosh, I love your work. And I was like, I promise you, I am very regular. Here's my cell phone number. Let's talk. And I'm so glad she reached out to me, because she has enriched my life so much, just as a colleague, but also as a friend. And we've collaborated. So I think if mentees think about it from, the perspective of people are waiting, like people are waiting for you to reach out. People are waiting to like help you go to your next level. You just never know who the right fit is until, you put something out there. So that's the advice that I would say is just, hey, shoot an email, connect with them on LinkedIn. Some people who have no even like connection to them from like a mutual person will reach out and say, hey, I need someone to like walk me through my dissertation, not necessarily be on the committee, but I'm like, okay, we can at least chat about it. I don't know if I'm a fit, but let's see. So I think if you think about it from a curiosity adventure, just put it out there and just see what happens. But a lot of times we get out of perfectionism, like stall and
Yeah, and Tara, I have a quick follow-up to that. And also, it's not about sending one email or 2 emails, send dozens of emails. And when you go on the NRMN platform, send dozens of collaboration invites or requests, or ask dozens of persons, because when you limit yourself to just that one person or that one institution, you may not get the response that you want. But when you send it to dozens of persons, you will get that one that you didn't expect to get, but that's the one that works the best for you. So it's not feeling, and it can be overwhelming to send dozens of emails, but do like what I do. Just make a general email and then you just copy it for everyone. And you just put in some specifics and you just tweak it as needed, but send dozens of emails, and hopefully, and more than normal, you will get those few responses that can be very helpful for you.
Actually, I would like to say, dear Marvin, yes, dozen, definitely. Because I was mentee, I don't know, hundreds sent email. It works, definitely, I agree. So don't give up, because everybody has different status and busy schedule. If you send, believe me, one of them work. Yes, I agree, Marvin, I like it.
No, that is awesome advice. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right, and my last question for everybody is, why is mentorship important, or why is mentorship needed in the STEM community?
I think without mentorship, very broad, nobody would be able to grow. I think we all have skills and knowledge that we need to spread. We can help each other, support each other, and especially in STEM, it's still a field which is not as diverse as I wish it would be. So I think it's really especially needed to guide young people, the next generations, to show them the world is bigger than just what in their own environment, what they know about.
What comes to mind is, and my husband and I, he also has a PhD, so we've had conversation about why did it seem like my path was more linear versus his. And I said, well, really, it's about mentorship. It's about mentorship. I was already plugged in with mentors that could see, and I mentioned vision, or they could see something in me that I couldn't tap into right then myself. Like I was unaware of, the gifts and the talents that I could bring to the table, because I'm just young and kind of insecure. But and so with the mentors, it's like, you reach out to this person and tell them I sent you. And it's like, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, I did that. So I wasn't always the student that, sent a dozen emails, because my mentors would be like, if this is what you like, there's 3 people that I'm going to connect you with, and you pick from those. So I feel like it helps students and trainees maintain momentum and have clarity where they're not having as many bumps in the road where they get student loan debt and different issues in terms of economic injustice and just different things to. And there are a lot of students that, you know, they're dropping out of college, they're dropping out of, you know, high school. So how can we even talk about having a postdoctoral training program with a diverse pool if, you know, they haven't had guidance the whole way through? So I really think that it's about helping people stay the course so that they can get to their best end goal, whatever they look like. And I think mentorship does need to be tailored. Not everybody may want to do the PhD. Maybe some people want to do entrepreneurship, and that's kind of a conflict we may have in the STEM fields. It's like, I think you'd be great at this. It's like, but that's your dream. That's not my dream. So I think true mentorship is about like, you could do this, but what is it that you really want to do? And it really helps people stay the course and continue on that path of greatness.
And also, mentorship saves time. So instead of you having to figure out everything on your own, or instead of you having to start everything from scratch, just always remember that resources are already out there. Persons who have gone through it, persons who have read the literature, persons who are studying the literature, that is all out there. So it's for you to find these persons, access these persons, connect with these persons, and not only find out what they know, but build on their knowledge. It saves you a lot of time instead of you having to start from scratch with everything that you're doing.
Oh, Gulnaz, did you have anything to share?
Yes, and also I just wanted a couple items. First of all, mentors definitely have to, for the mentees and students, set the SMART goals. And then also have they can have to for the develop their leadership skills. And then and also mentors is the raise the students' confidence. And definitely is very important. And then also they increase the problem solving abilities. And it's very important points for the have them. And of course, you know, mentors always is ready for the offer the guidance for free.
That is great. Again, thank you so much for sharing. So that was my last question for y'all. Now I just want to give a chance for the attendees. Did y'all have any questions for the panelists or for myself about NRMN or about any of their experiences or advice that they shared today? Give them a couple seconds to type it in the chat if there is any.
I have a question. It's the beginning of the year. Anybody have any books they'd recommend, maybe for a mentor-mentee book club, or just good reading for mentors in general, whether it's like scholarly or whether it's just kind of like social justice or book recommendations?
Good question. Does anybody have any book recommendations? Or even the attendees, you can put them in the chat as well.
I would love to get the answer too, Tyra, because I don't have any.
In my senior global health class, we're reading a book by, oh gosh, I just blanked on his name. He's out of the UK. It's called Climate Change is Racist. And it came out in the middle of last year. So maybe August 2021, July 2021. And it's a short read. So my students have been enjoying it, one, because it's short, but it's also released during the pandemic. And so he had already started writing about climate change a little bit in the pandemic. And so it's newer off the press, but kind of talking about racial injustice, economic injustice, and climate change all being connected to that. So
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Also, if anybody wants to ask a question a little bit more privately, especially about NRMN, I put the email in the chat at info@nrmnet.net. So please feel free to send us an email, and one of the NRMN team members will respond back shortly. But if nobody has any questions, well, one, I want to thank my panelists so much for joining today. I really do appreciate it. This was an amazing conversation. I feel like this was some really good information that our network needs to hear. So again, thank you so much. And thank you for attendees for joining us today, in celebrating just the power of mentorship. We really do appreciate it. And also, just as a reminder, our next How to Leverage the NRMN Network webinar is on February 21st at 11 a.m. Central Time. And again, thank you so much for attending and hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.